Hello, welcome. In today's video, we are going to San Antonio, Texas Riverwalk. The San Antonio Riverwalk is a city park and pedestrian street in San Antonio, Texas, one level down from the automobile street. The Riverwalk winds and loops under bridges as two parallel sidewalks lined with restaurants and shops connecting the major tourist draws from the shops at River Center. It also connects to the Arneson River Theater, Marriage Island, La Villita, Hemisphere Park, Tower Life Building, San Antonio Museum of Art, the Pearl, and the city's 5 Spanish colonial missions, which have been named a World Heritage Site, which includes the Alamo. During the annual springtime Fiesta San Antonio, the river parade features flowery floats that float down the river. The San Antonio Riverwalk is known as the #1 attraction in Texas. The Riverwalk is open daily 24/7. Businesses are open. However, due to possible limited staffing, please contact individual business for current hours of operation. Masks are not required, but are highly recommended for everyone's safety. I wasn't able to film the entire boat ride on the Riverwalk, but I highly recommend you to visit this tourist spot in San Antonio, Texas, very rich in culture and history. Enjoy the ride. See you next time. Thank you for watching.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to the San Antonio River. Great to have you here. My name is Captain Stu. I'm going to be your captain taking you around on the river journey today. It's about a 2.5 mile trip. Should take us about 30 minutes to get back to this point. Lots of stories on the way. Hope you enjoy them and the history of San Antonio in amongst it all. So a couple of little notices as we get going. Please no standing up or walking around on the boat for your own safety. No standing on any seats as well. Please be very careful leaning over the side of the boat with your very expensive cell phone in case we hit a whale or a submarine. I don't want to see your phone end up on the bottom of the river. No smoking or vaping. In the event that you end up in the river, don't panic. I have a whole boatload of life jackets here on board, and I'm more than happy to throw them in your direction. Please, you can save me all that trouble if you just stand. Hear what's being said on the tour today, and we really appreciate the man that we call the father of the Riverwalk, Robert Hugman. And I'll be mentioning Robert Hugman's name a few times on the journey. Over here on the left-hand side of the boat in the amphitheatre, seating for 800 people over here, watching all the action on the stage over here on our right-hand side. Now, if the stage over here on the right looks familiar, you may remember it from the movie Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock and William Shatner. You see, they shot the pageant scene from that movie right there on that cute little stage. In fact, most of that movie, Miss Congeniality, was filmed here in San Antonio in honor of a great singer here in San Antonio, Rosita Fernandez. During her life, she performed on that stage back there hundreds of times. She also sang for popes and presidents, even singing at Jimmy Carter's inauguration in 1977. That beautiful bridge back there, named in honor of Rosita Fernandez in 1982. Well, over here on the right-hand side, this spectacular sculpture is out the front of the Briscoe Western Art Museum. The Art Museum building, formerly the San Antonio City Library. It became the Art Museum back in 2013. Named after former Texan Governor Dolph Briscoe. And if you have an interest in the days of the Wild Wild West, I can thoroughly recommend a visit to that art museum there. There are hundreds of great exhibits inside that building. And my favourite in there is a fully restored Wells Fargo stagecoach in that building. Well, this interesting bridge was built by the Berlin Bridge Company. And that is Berlin in Connecticut, not in Germany. They actually built 5 bridges for the San Antonio Riverwalk. And this is one of them. And all the bridges are of the same design. This type of bridge is called a lenticular truss bridge. Up here on the right-hand side of the boat, underneath the giant cypress tree, this is a little island over here on the right. It's a heart-shaped island and a very romantic spot on the river. This is known as Marriage Island. Already today, I have seen 2 weddings and 1 proposal held on that little island so far today. In fact, throughout any year, on average, there are about 300 weddings that are held on that island every year. Going back to a beautiful day we had here in the summer months of last year, as I was giving my tours that day, I counted 8 weddings held on that island on the one day. It is a very, very popular place to get married in San Antonio. Also a very popular place to propose and also to renew vows as well, Marriage Island. Now back in the mid-1800s, there weren't too many bridges going over the San Antonio River. The bridge behind us wasn't here then. It was built in 1922. And it was fashioned on the bridges that one might see in Paris. Also in the mid-1800s, not too many safe places where locals could bring their wagons and horses across the river. This was always known to be a pretty good spot here because it was so shallow in those days, and there was a mill that was grinding the grain in this area next to the river. The residents of San Antonio came to know this part of the river as the Old Mill Crossing. Now, the building on our left-hand side of the boat, it was the tallest structure in San Antonio for about 60 years. For many years, this building on our left, also the tallest building west of the Mississippi as well. It's called the Tower Life Building. Have a look right up the top of the building on the left here, under the flag, as high up as you can see on the left. And if you can handle the glare up there, you might be able to see the gargoyles hanging off the building up there like rainwater spouts on the corners at the top. Then once you find the gargoyles clinging to the building at the top there, have a look at the outside wall of the building. Just above the tree line, a row of faces all the way along the side of the building looking down at us. Well, those faces on the building there watching you are called grotesque faces, in order to keep bad luck away from their pride and joy. Well, they thought that was a pretty good plan, but unfortunately for the Smith brothers, it didn't work out so well for them. They actually lost their building in the Great Depression only a couple of years after they finished. But they left us with a great legacy. Have a look back at that building from this angle. Now, a lot of people tell me when they look at that building from here, using their imagination, in the shape of the building, they can see the front of a very, very tall ship cruising towards us in the shape of that building. That is the Tower Life Building from 1929.
Oh yeah, you see it?
Now this is a floodgate that we're going through here. It's one of 2 floodgates we'll be going through on our journey. Here we're going to be leaving the natural San Antonio River. The river takes a turn to the left and it heads down to the Gulf of Mexico, a couple of 100 miles away down in that direction. We're turning to the right, we're heading north, and we've turned into a man-made channel. This channel, together with the floodgate we just came through and another one up ahead, are all part of the flood control system we have in San Antonio. When the floodwaters come down the river from the north, the riverwalk can be protected by closing the floodgates and sending all the floodwaters down this channel to end up in the Gulf of Mexico. So the San Antonio Riverwalk is actually a flood control program designed by Robert Hugman, the man we call the father of the Riverwalk, and it is the #1 tourist attraction in the state of Texas. Now if you take a look over my shoulder back at this bridge, you'll see all the padlocks attached to this bridge behind us. Now those padlocks are on both sides of the bridge, and this is called our Lovelock Bridge. When people get married in San Antonio, the custom is they will find their way to the Lovelock Bridge behind us. They will bring along a padlock, they'll write their names and the date on their padlock, and then they'll attach that lovelock to the bridge before they throw the key in the river. And that symbolizes eternal and everlasting love. And that's been a very popular activity since about 2012. There are thousands of love locks on that bridge as a consequence of that activity over the years. Directly in front of the boat, that is the natural San Antonio River. From here, the river winds its way northwards another 4 miles further upstream. People like to take a stroll along the riverbank. It's pretty easy going, flat on both sides, so it gives a great opportunity to get some exercise and also the chance to see more of our historic Riverwalk up close and personal. Well, here we're going to be taking a right-hand turn. We're going to leave the man-made channel behind. We're getting back onto the natural San Antonio River. And over here on the right-hand side, this is the other floodgate that I mentioned. As the floodwaters come down the river, they slide this floodgate down. It seals off the river, stopping the floodwaters going into the city to cause any damage. San Antonio has been devastated by some serious flood events over the centuries. The worst flood happened in 1921, and in that flood, we are told from the reports, the floodwaters were 9 feet deep across the city streets. Well, if that's true, there's a city street directly in front of us, St. Mary Street. You imagine 9 feet of water across that bridge. You'll get an idea of just how deep the floodwaters were going through the city in that flood of 1921, long before the floodgates were installed to protect the city. On our right-hand side, the very historic Esquire Tavern. It opened up as a tavern the day after Prohibition was lifted in the United States back in 1933. And then next door to the Esquire and up above, this is the newest hotel on the Riverwalk. This is the Canopy Hotel. There are 22 stories above us. The Canopy, brand new on the Riverwalk, it only opened up at the end of last year. Well, around the city of San Antonio, we are very lucky. We have a number of historic old theatres that have been lovingly restored and brought back to life. One of those theatres is called the Aztec Theatre. And as we come out from under the bridge, this is the Aztec Theatre over here on the right-hand side where I'm pointing, built 1926. It was the theatre to come to in the 1920s and 30s to see the latest movies from Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Rudolph Valentino, all showing here at the Aztec Theatre. But sadly, it fell into a little bit of disrepair over the years, so it was closed down and renovated, and then the Aztec was opened up as a concert venue. And some of the performers that have been at the Aztec since they've opened it include Journey, Styx, ZZ Top, Eddie Money, Casey and the Sunshine Band, and Olivia Newton-John, just to name some. This pretty little bridge is the Robert Hugman Bridge. I've mentioned Robert Hugman a couple of times. We call him the father of the Riverwalk. Back in the 1920s, Robert Hugman, who was an architect, had a vision for the San Antonio River. And that vision turned out to be the San Antonio Riverwalk that we're all enjoying. And that bridge behind us was named in honor of Robert Hugman. But if you saw the movie Selena with Jennifer Lopez from the late 1990s, based on the life of the great singer Selena Quintanilla, they shot a lot of that movie here in San Antonio. There's a memorable scene in that movie with J-Lo sitting on that bridge behind us. So we also call that bridge back there Selena's Bridge. And the building location, so the building was sold and renovated and it became a hotel. Now it is the very historic Omni La Mansion Hotel. Up in front of the boat on the left-hand side, here comes the restaurant Bubba Gump. As we come out from under the bridge, have a look at the building up on top of Bubba Gump, high on the left. It looks like the building up here on the left above us is balancing on one wall up there. The building has been there since 1930. That is the former Nix Hospital. It was the first air-conditioned hospital in the United States. No longer a hospital though, the building has now been sold and closed. It will become a new luxury hotel here on the Riverwalk in times to come. But some of the people who were born in the Nix Hospital back in the day, the legendary entertainer Carol Burnett, who grew up here in San Antonio, and also Colonel Oliver North, also born in that hospital. Well, this is a pretty part of the river. This is known as South Bank. Some great restaurants through here, as you can see. You know, there are in fact over 100 restaurants around the San Antonio Riverwalk and the nearby streets. So no matter what sort of food you're looking for, there's every likelihood you'll find it either at the river's edge or close by. The building in front of the boat, the Hyatt Regency Hotel, was built in 1981. When this hotel in front of us was constructed, the height of the building was kept at 16 stories. That was done for a reason. You see, on the other side of this hotel from where we are sits the Alamo, and nobody wanted a shadow over the Alamo at sunset. So the slide rules and the calculators were brought out and all the math was done, and it was worked out that if this building here on our left-hand side was kept to 16 stories in height. Coming up in front of the boat on the right-hand side of the river where Saltgrass is, this building is called the Casino Club Building. It was built in 1927. Although it was never a casino, it was always just a social club. Up on top of the building, there are apartments up there. One of the famous residents that lived in the building. And he must have enjoyed his time here because he and the Riverwalk just like Alex Haley. Now this is always a very popular and busy part of the river, as you can see. This is known as River Square. Lots of great restaurants here either side. All sorts of fabulous dining experiences. And it's also a part of the river where oftentimes you may get to hear mariachi bands as well. So not only the great food, but the great music that goes along with it. Before we go underneath the Commerce Street Bridge in front of us, there's a building on the right-hand side that has a curved balcony. On the front of the balcony on the right, it says Hugman Architect. Well, I've mentioned the name Robert Hugman a few times on the journey. We call him the father of the Riverwalk. He designed the Riverwalk that we're all enjoying. This building over here on the right was his architect's office back in the 1940s as the Riverwalk was being constructed. And over near the staircase, there's a bust of Robert Hugman and a little bit of a storyboard, giving some information on how the San Antonio Riverwalk came to be with Robert Hugman's influence and design. Now this iconic restaurant here in front of the boat with the colourful umbrellas is called Casa Rio. It was the first restaurant to ever open on the San Antonio Riverwalk. It opened in 1946. It was opened by Alfred Beyer. And to this day, Alfred Beyer's family still own and operate this restaurant. Well, back in the 1940s, the custom was you would come down here to Casa Rio, you would enjoy your delicious meal here, and then you were invited to take a gondola ride up and down the river where we are right here. And that practice gave rise to San Antonio's nickname back in those days, which was America's Venice. So here we're leaving the natural San Antonio River and we've turned left into a man-made channel. This channel was completed in 1968. That was a big year for the city of San Antonio. That was the year the World's Fair came to town. It was called Hemisphere. And it brought 6 million visitors to the city to be a part of the World's Fair. So there was a need for a better transport system to get those 6 million people around the city, and also to get them closer to the World's Fair, which was located underneath the Tower of the Americas. So this channel was finished at a cost of $13 million. It's about 3 feet deep. It extended the Riverwalk a little further into this part of the city, and it allowed those 6 million visitors to the city, and all the locals as well, easier access to the World's Fair, located underneath the Tower of the Americas, which we'll see shortly. Through the San Antonio streets took 6 days to complete. They were travelling at less than 1 mile an hour with that hotel. They eventually got the Fairmount to where they wanted it. They put it down, it's still there today, and the hotel they built in its place back in 1985, that white building in front of the boat, that is the Marriott Hotel. And when the World's Fair came to town, the symbol of the World's Fair was the Tower of the Americas. And in front of the boat, just over on the right-hand side, here is the big, tall, circular Tower of the Americas, 750 feet high. It has an observation deck right at the very top. There's also a revolving restaurant that turns around once every hour. It's called the Chart House, and it offers panoramic views of the city. A great place to be when the lights come on in the afternoon. Now, if you're planning on going up to the top of the Tower of the Americas, you'll have a choice of 4 ways you can get there. There are 3 elevators, and there's 1 set of stairs, which has 952 steps all the way to the top. A great way to work up an appetite if you plan on going up to the top of the tower for a meal. Sorts of wonderful activities, but leading up to COVID, one of the great activities that was held in the ballroom here above us was the Raul Jimenez Thanksgiving lunch. That meant on Thanksgiving every year for many, many years, Over 25,000 people here in San Antonio were served a full turkey dinner by over 8,000 volunteers. Those 25,000 people otherwise would miss out on a Thanksgiving lunch. And that was a great occasion here for many years, and sadly put on hold during COVID. We're looking forward to its return. And when the World's Fair came to town back in 1968, the number of people that came to town, 6 million of course, and in amongst them, lots of dignitaries and celebrities, including the president of the day, Lyndon Baines Johnson. And he brought his wife, Lady Bird. She officially opened the World's Fair. Also, the Princess Grace of Monaco was in town for all the fun of the World's Fair, and a whole bunch of entertainers here as well. Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, Dean Martin, Phyllis Diller, and they were all, Glenn Campbell, they were all here to enjoy all the fun and put on some shows for the World's Fair. Now in front of the boat, this is our little version of a Disney ride. We have some rails here and the fun begins because I can't see the rails, so please excuse me if we bump a little bit on the way through, but I'm going to try and get through unscathed. Just remember that we have a whole boatload of life jackets here on board if we do need them on our way through, so fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll make it through without any issues. Might just bump a little bit on the way through. Let's see what happens. Oh, there's a little one.
Pretty good, pretty good.
There we go. We made it. Thank you, sir. Now as we come out from underneath the convention centre here above us, one of the other building projects for the World's Fair was the Lila Cockerell Theatre, and that's over here on our right-hand side. Once we get out in the open here, you'll see the name up on the building, Lila Cockerell, a former mayor of San Antonio. She was a great mayor who did many things, many good things for the city. But if you have a look on the right-hand side, high above us, above her name, you'll see a beautiful mural up there. That mural is 130 feet wide. It is 30 feet high, and it's made out of 400,000 coloured polished stones. That is called the Confluence of Civilizations, and it was put together by the artist Wano Gorman. Now when Wano Gorman was alive, there are 140 places in here to shop till you drop, 37 places to enjoy food or drink. There are 5 restaurants here at Riverwalk level as well. Also in the shopping mall in front of us, there's an IMAX cinema, another cinema complex that has 10 screens. There's a comedy club inside here, a Dallas Cowboys store, Legoland, and our brand new aquarium here in San Antonio. It's called Sea Life, and it opened up in this shopping mall only about 6 months ago. And just to give you an idea of where we are at this point in relation to the rest of the city of San Antonio, well, here we are about 1 block away from the Alamo at this location right here. Hotel. That hotel is called the Menga Hotel. It has a recorded and documented